Welcome back, everyone. Ready for another deep dive? Today, we're going to explore something I think you'll find fascinating.
Yeah, this one is pretty cool.
We're talking about businesses, but not just any businesses.
Right. These are the companies that didn't just change an industry, they changed the world.
Exactly. We're going to look at 12 companies that had a truly global impact and really try to understand what made them so successful.
It's not just about what they did, it's about how they did it.
What were the innovations, the strategies, the mindsets that allowed these businesses to achieve such incredible influence?
And most importantly, what lessons can we learn from them? How can we apply those lessons to our own ventures or even our own lives?
So, are you ready to kick things off?
Absolutely. Let's dive in.
Our first stop takes us back to the late 1800s with Standard Oil, founded by the one and only John D. Rockefeller.
Now, this was a time when whale oil was the primary source of lighting, but it was expensive and messy.
Not a great solution.
Not at all. But Rockefeller saw an opportunity in petroleum. He realized that kerosene, refined from petroleum, could be a much cheaper and more efficient source of light. But his brilliance wasn't just in refining the oil.
Right, it was about more than that.
It was about controlling the entire process, from drilling for oil to refining it to transporting it and even to selling it. He built this massive, vertically integrated company that could produce and distribute kerosene at a scale never seen before.
He basically streamlined the entire process, right?
Exactly. And that allowed him to drive down costs and make kerosene affordable to the masses. This happened right at the time when the Industrial Revolution was taking off.
So you could say that Standard Oil fueled the modern world.
You could definitely argue that, but of course there's always another side to the story.
Yeah, Standard Oil's dominance eventually led to some problems, didn't it?
It did. They became so big and powerful that they essentially had a monopoly on the oil industry.
And that led to,
The creation of antitrust laws, which were designed to prevent companies from becoming too powerful and stifling competition.
it's a reminder that even the most groundbreaking innovations can have unintended consequences.
Absolutely. So what can we learn from Standard Oil?
Well, I think it highlights the importance of efficiency. Streamlining processes, cutting costs, making things more affordable and accessible to a wider audience, those are all valuable strategies.
But it also teaches us about balance, about the need to think about the long-term impact of our actions, and to ensure that our pursuit of success doesn't come at the expense of others.
It's about creating a system that benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Exactly. Now, let's shift gears and fast forward a few decades to the early 1900s. We're going to talk about Henry Ford and the Ford Motor Company.
Ah, the Model T.
That's the one. Now, back then, cars were a luxury item, something only the wealthy could afford. But Ford had this vision to make cars accessible to everyone.
He wanted to put America on wheels.
He did, and his secret weapon was the assembly line.
This was a revolutionary idea at the time, wasn't it?
It was groundbreaking. The assembly line allowed Ford to mass-produce cars at a speed and efficiency that had never been seen before. And that, of course, brought down the cost, making the Model T affordable for the average person.
And that single innovation changed everything.
Think about it. Cities were redesigned to accommodate cars, suburbs were born, new industries popped up to support this automotive revolution, and people had a level of personal freedom and mobility they never had before.
It's amazing to think about the ripple effect of that one innovation.
It really is. So what's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, for me, it's about the power of democratizing access. What can you make more affordable or accessible in your field?
What can you bring to the masses that was previously only available to a select few? That's where real impact lies.
Now, let's switch gears again and talk about a company that wasn't meeting a basic need, but creating desire.
Ah, you're talking about Coca-Cola.
Founded way back in 1892. I mean, it's not like people were desperate for a sugary drink, right?
No, not exactly. But Coca-Cola's genius was in their marketing and branding. They didn't just sell a beverage, they sold an experience.
Happiness in a bottle.
Exactly. They associated Coca-Cola with happiness, with celebration, with refreshment, with good times. They created this iconic logo and these feel-good advertising campaigns that really resonated with people. And they built this incredibly strong emotional connection with their consumers.
But that leads to an interesting question. In today's world where people are so much more health conscious,
Right.
how does a company like Coca-Cola adapt?
It's a challenge for any business built on desires rather than necessities. As values and priorities evolve, brands need to stay flexible and find ways to remain relevant.
It's a good point for all of us to consider, really. How can we ensure that our business or our ideas remain relevant in a world that's constantly changing? How do we keep that emotional connection strong, even as the landscape shifts around us?
It's a question worth pondering. Now let's jump ahead to the early days of computing with IBM, founded in 1911.
And this wasn't about sleek gadgets and user-friendly interfaces.
No, not at all. They were tackling a much more mundane problem: business calculations.
Not the most exciting thing.
Not exactly glamorous, but incredibly important. Back then, businesses relied on slow, error-prone manual
Oh,
calculations.
I can imagine.
It was a real bottleneck. But IBM came along and introduced machines that could automate this process. They were essentially paving the way for faster, more accurate data processing.
So they revolutionized the back office.
They did. And in doing so, they had a profound impact on how businesses operate. It's proof that sometimes the biggest impact comes from solving the most boring problems.
Sometimes it's not about the flashy stuff, it's about making the essential things work better.
Exactly. And speaking of computers, let's move on to Microsoft, founded in 1975.
Now, they didn't invent the personal computer.
No, but they made it something anyone could use.
This was a time when computers were becoming more common, but they were still very intimidating to most people.
They were, but Microsoft software, especially Windows, came along and simplified the whole user experience. They made it much more intuitive, much more user-friendly, and that opened up the world of personal computing to millions of people.
They made technology accessible.
They did, and that's a powerful lesson for any entrepreneur. How can you simplify complexity? How can you make your product or service or process easier to understand and use? That's a key to success in any field.
Now, for a contrasting approach, let's look at Apple. Founded just a year later in 1976, they had a different philosophy, didn't they?
They did. While Microsoft focused on practicality and functionality, Apple emphasized aesthetics and user experience. They wanted to make technology not just useful, but beautiful and enjoyable to use.
Think about the iconic designs of the Mac and the iPhone. They were sleek, they were elegant.
And they were incredibly intuitive to use. Apple made tech desirable.
They understood that people connect with products on an emotional level.
It's not just about what it does, it's about how it makes you feel.
And they went a step further by integrating multiple functionalities into single devices. The iPhone wasn't just a phone, it was a camera, a music player, a mini computer, all rolled into one.
It was about anticipating how people would want to use technology and creating products that seamlessly fit into their lives. So think about it. What seemingly separate elements in your field could you bring together? Could you create something truly unique and valuable by connecting the dots in an unexpected way?
Now let's dive into the world of e-commerce with Amazon, founded by Jeff Bezos in 1994. And it all started with a simple idea.
Selling books online.
Exactly. But Bezos had a much grander vision. He wanted to create a platform where you could buy anything.
Anything and everything.
And he did it by focusing on convenience, selection, and customer experience. Fast shipping, endless choices, easy returns.
Amazon removed all the pain points of traditional shopping and made it effortless.
They understood that solving those everyday problems, those little frustrations that we all experience, that's what builds customer loyalty.
It's about making people's lives easier and better.
So what everyday frustrations can you address in your field? What would make your customers' lives easier or more enjoyable? Those are the questions that can spark innovation and lead to incredible breakthroughs.
Now let's talk about a company that revolutionized how we access information. Google. Founded in 1998.
Remember those pre-Google days?
Vaguely.
Spending hours in the library trying to find that one piece of information you needed?
Or using those clunky early search engines that gave you a million irrelevant results. It was a real struggle.
It was. But Google's mission was to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible. And they did it, didn't they?
They absolutely did. Through their search engine, through Maps, through YouTube, through all their various products and services, they've transformed how we learn, how we connect, how we navigate the world.
They made information readily available to anyone with an internet connection. This is a powerful reminder that even intangible things, like information, can have a huge impact on society.
Democratizing information is incredibly empowering. It fuels curiosity, it promotes learning, it drives progress. So think about how you can make information or resources more readily available to your audience, to the people you're trying to reach. How can you empower them with knowledge?
Now let's turn our attention to a company that's tackling one of the biggest challenges facing our planet. Tesla, founded in 2003. And they weren't content with just building electric cars.
They wanted to make electric cars cool.
Which Let's face it, they weren't at the time.
Not exactly. They were seen as a bit boring, a bit impractical, maybe even a bit geeky.
But Tesla changed all that, didn't they?
They did. They came in with these sleek designs, impressive performance, and this bold vision for a sustainable future.
They proved that you don't have to sacrifice style for sustainability.
And they captured the imagination of the public. They made people excited about electric cars.
So what can we learn from Tesla?
I think it's a lesson in tackling big challenges with bold solutions. It's about inspiring people with a vision for a better future.
It's about thinking big and not being afraid to push boundaries.
Exactly. And finally, let's talk about Facebook, now Meta, founded by Mark Zuckerberg in 2004. And it all started with the simple goal of connecting people.
Bringing the world closer together.
Exactly. And they created this platform that has transformed how we communicate, how we share information, how we build communities. Facebook has been a powerful tool for social movements, for global conversations, for connecting with loved ones across vast distances. But it's also raised some important questions.
About the impact of social media on our lives, on our mental health, on our privacy.
Yes. And it's a reminder that even the most well-intentioned innovations can have unintended consequences. Connecting people is powerful, but it's important to be mindful of the potential downsides.
It's about using this power responsibly. So what can we take away from Facebook's story?
I think it's about considering the full implications of our work. What kind of connections does your business or your idea foster? What are the potential long-term effects, both positive and negative? It's about thinking beyond the immediate impact and considering the broader societal consequences.
It's about building a better world, not just a more profitable business.
Exactly.
So we've covered a lot of ground here, from oil giants to tech innovators from the late 1800s to the present day. What are the common threads? What can we learn from these world-changing businesses?
Well, one thing that stands out is the power of innovation. Each of these companies identified a problem or an opportunity and came up with a creative solution. And often that meant disrupting existing industries, challenging the status quo, and pushing boundaries.
But it wasn't just about being different. It was about understanding people.
Right. Understanding their needs, their desires, their frustrations, and then delivering solutions that really resonated with them.
Take Coca-Cola again. They didn't just sell a drink. They tapped into people's emotions, their desire for happiness and connection.
And they weren't afraid to think big. Henry Ford wanted to put a car in every driveway, and Jeff Bezos wanted to sell everything online. These weren't incremental improvements. They were aiming to transform entire industries.
So what does this all mean for you, for our listeners out there? It's about applying these lessons to your own ideas and aspirations.
Yeah.
What problem are you trying to solve? What impact do you want to make? Don't be afraid to challenge the status quo, to think bigger and bolder.
Ask yourself, what can you make more affordable, more accessible, or more enjoyable? How can you use technology to empower people or connect them in meaningful ways? We've seen how businesses can shape the world for better or for worse. It's up to each of us to use our creativity and our ingenuity to build a future we can all be proud of. It's an exciting time to be an innovator, a change maker. We're living in a world brimming with possibilities, but we've got to remember, with great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah, that's a good point. We've seen throughout history how even the best intentions can have unintended consequences. So as you're developing your next big idea, think about the potential impact, both the good and the bad.
Are you creating something that benefits society, or could it potentially cause harm? Have you considered the ethical implications of your work?
Those are important questions to ask yourself before you launch into anything.
Absolutely. Building a successful business is important, but building a sustainable, ethical business, one that contributes to a better world, that's the true challenge and the ultimate goal.
It's not just about making a profit, it's about making a difference. So we've explored some incredible companies, each with its own unique story. But as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder.
In this rapidly changing world, what businesses are emerging today that will shape the world of tomorrow? Which innovations will revolutionize our lives, solve global challenges, or connect us in new and unexpected ways?
Yeah, it's a question worth considering. We've seen how seemingly simple ideas, like making cars affordable or information accessible, can have ripple effects across generations. What seeds are being planted right now that will blossom into the next world-changing ventures?
Maybe it's the company developing lab-grown meat to address food scarcity, or the one creating personalized education platforms powered by AI. Or maybe it's a business model we haven't even imagined yet.
That's what's so exciting about the future. It's unwritten. It's up to all of us, innovators and entrepreneurs, to identify the needs and challenges of our time and create solutions that will shape the world for the better.
It's an invitation to stay curious, to keep asking questions, and to never stop exploring those what-if scenarios. The next big idea could be just around the corner.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll be featuring your company on a future deep dive. That's all the time we have for today, but I hope this conversation has sparked your imagination and given you some food for thought. Remember, innovation is all about connecting the dots, finding those unexpected links between ideas, and having the courage to bring something new into the world.
And as we navigate this increasingly complex and interconnected world, it's more important than ever to think critically, act ethically, and strive to create a positive impact.
Thanks for joining us on this journey through the stories of businesses that changed the world. Until next time, keep learning, keep exploring, and keep diving deep. It really is amazing to think about, isn't it? How a simple idea, a spark of innovation, can snowball into something so much bigger.
Yeah, it's like a chain reaction, you know? One thing leads to another, and before you know it, you've got this whole new landscape.
Think about the ripple effect of those early innovations we talked about.
Like Ford and the Model T.
Exactly. Who could have predicted that making cars affordable would lead to suburbs, fast food, the entire road trip culture? It's mind-boggling.
Or that making information easily accessible online, like Google did, would completely transform education, communication, even global politics. It's incredible.
It really makes you wonder what seemingly small innovations happening right now, today, will have that kind of massive impact down the line.
What's brewing in some garage or lab right now that's going to blow our minds in 10, 20, 50 years?
What's the next Model T? The next Google?
Well, what about those personalized learning platforms driven by AI? What if they totally reshape the education system as we know it?
That's a good one. Or what about those companies working on lab-grown meat? What if they actually crack the code and solve world hunger?
Now, that would be a game changer.
It's exciting to think about all the possibilities. And what's even more exciting is that maybe, just maybe, one of our listeners out there will be the one to spark that next big change.
That's what I love about this. The future is wide open. Anyone with a good idea and the drive to make it happen can make a real difference.
Exactly. So if you're out there listening and you've got an idea brewing, don't underestimate its potential. You never know where it might lead.
The world needs more bold thinkers, more innovators, more people who are willing to challenge the status quo and push boundaries.
And who knows, maybe one day we'll be deep diving into the story of your changing business. That's all the time we have for today, but I hope this deep dive has given you a fresh perspective on the power of innovation.
It's not just about technology or gadgets or coming up with some crazy new invention.
It's about understanding people, their needs, their desires, their dreams.
It's about making their lives better, easier, more fulfilling.
It's about solving problems, big and small. And ultimately, it's about using our creativity and ingenuity to build a better future for everyone.
So keep learning, keep exploring, keep asking questions.
Keep diving deep. And thanks for joining us on this incredible journey.